Um, what are my thoughts on the current state of gaming, or at least my thoughts on Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, and Ouya? Ouya. My thoughts on the Ouya are, and that's the full extent of my thoughts on the Ouya. Um, Devante, if you want me to list all 77, I will, but there's a lot of them. Anyways, thoughts on the current state of gaming. God, I don't even know where to start with that.
Our newest members are housed here, in the Hall of Attainment. I'll ask that you please keep your voice down while inside, as others may be working on research or delicate experiments.
I disagree, Basharano. I really do. I also disagree with Tall, but that's not exactly a surprise, is it? No, I'm not going to start with Nintendo. All right, you want a discussion about gaming? You got it. And everyone's going to disagree with me, and that's totally normal. I'm okay with that. I'm going to switch modes here for a second. Alienware Alpha. We have a console that totally runs tons of games. Yeah, because it's a PC thing, you piece of... Sorry, I have nothing good to say about them. Okay, so here we go. Rumination mode. I'm going to kind of be ignoring chat for a second while I answer this. It is my opinion that the current state of gaming is at a breaking point where the word gaming is becoming an out-of-date term. The very concept is something that doesn't actually apply the way it used to. It used to be once upon a time you referred to someone as a gamer, and that just was a good definitive of exactly what they were engaged in, their hobbies, their interests, and a sort of generalized sense of the kind of person they were. That hasn't been true for years, but at this point it's getting so not true to the point where it's ridiculous. It's like saying you like books, because there's such a vast variety and type of books, including different things that aren't even technically qualified as books, that are still technically under the generalized category of books. You get the point. Moving along. It's also like saying you like movies or videos. It doesn't really apply anymore. Gaming is such a wide and vast thing. Now, of course, you're asking about video gaming. But even when we divide it up between gaming and video gaming, or rather, it's actually more like gaming as the umbrella, and then we get the one branch that is video gaming, even video gaming has become so diverse to the point that we can't even call it that anymore. There is a violent and vast breach in the difference of market and which, what's the term I'm looking for? Target audience when it comes to video gaming nowadays. Because on the one side we have... Well, okay, it's not even one side and the other side, because the problem is there's like 50 divisions now. Casual gaming is usually a term that is used to label one of 5 or so different types of things. And the problem is all of those are technically, debatably different markets and different target audiences, but none of those, they don't really have much to do with each other, so labeling all of them casual gaming is, again, a misnomer. The idea here is we've got this thing over here. This is what we're going to call mobile gaming. This is the kind of game, I call these flash games. That's what I usually refer to those as. They're designed to be low commitment, low investment, and they're generally cheap, too. The price is irrelevant, though, because the real point is low commitment, low time investment. These are for people who want to have some means of entertainment while they're on the bus, or while they're waiting at their lunch break at work, or while they're chilling waiting for their kids to get off school. It's literally, I want to play a game for 15 minutes. There's a lot to be said about that market. I am not a part of that market. I am actually avidly against, that kind of gaming personally. As in, I don't want to play those games. Those kind of games seem like a waste of time and effort for me. But I don't have anything against the market existing, nor do I have anything against the market, people catering to that market. That's totally fine. And I have nothing against people who are in that market, because why would I? The only thing I don't like is that people seem to not have realized on a development level, on a level of the corporations, again, I can't see Chad, no glasses, people have not seemed to realize that that is its own complete market, which is way over here. And so companies that are used to developing games for other markets, for more time-intensive games, for more long, in-depth RPGs, that kind of thing, people who are used to developing for these markets are trying to develop for that market, and that is failing, or it is hindering their ability to produce over here in other markets, and they're losing customer base as a process. I'm looking at you, Square. Another thing that people tend to be weird about as far as gaming right now is the idea that we're currently experiencing a rather violent backlash against several things, all of which I could define by the word corporate. honestly. Lack of truth in advertising, excessive amount of prettiness in graphics, which no longer seems to have the impact that it used to. I'm actually going to be talking about this when I start talking about Metal Gear Solid, of all things, believe it or not. The idea of trying to sell a new game based solely on the fact that it's new and has that new appeal, ripping features out of games. There's a dozen things, a lot of things that are hot topic terms right now. You could use the term DLC. However, the problem is most people use the term DLC, they mean that as a negative. This is another one of those misnomer problems because DLC means more than just downloadable content now. There's DLC that is additional content that makes the game funner. Skyrim has DLCs that are good. I like that. Fallout New Vegas had DLCs that are good. Then there's DLC that means content that was actually pulled out of the basic game that you had to pay for because they wanted you to pay more money. Not nearly as good. Then there's DLC that is purely cosmetic. I'm actually totally in favor of that. You want to pay money to look cooler? Do it. I've done it before, and I'll probably do it again. I'm with that. Then there's DLC, which is added purely to, I guess, pad out a game's existence, and whether that's good or not is going to depend on the specific circumstance. But I will point out that with the exception of the pricing model, The Sims 3, I know it's going to sound weird, but The Sims 3 did have a pretty good market model with regards to that, because each DLC, not counting the stuff packs, because those are just stupid, but each DLC added something worth a damn. As long as you got them on sale, new towns, new events you can interact with, new types of gameplay. Yeah, with it. Padded out the length of a game's existence. I mean, Sims 3 is still a game that's still being played, and it's been out for how many years? But my point is, all of these hot button topics, people are getting sick of them. And most of them are being lumped up into one category over which we call AAA. Now, about 3 or 4 years ago, this whole indie thing started becoming a really big thing in the market. Now, the problem here is that, you know where I'm going with this, indie no longer actually defines anything. The term indie is most commonly used nowadays to refer to as a low-budget game production. But even that isn't really accurate. There are multiple categories of what an indie game is now, just as there are multiple categories of what a AAA game is. And that division is literally just one of budget as of this point in time. It's not whether they're independently developed nor independently published. Now, there's a really good thing and a really bad thing that has happened as a result of the indie market exploding. And the reason it's exploded is because of people becoming sick overall of the AAA problem. People will still pay for the AAA games, but the problem is right now, let me explain something. I actually explained this previously. Let me diverge here for a second. One of the biggest problems facing most big publishers and developers right now in the AAA category, in other words, high budget per category, is the fact that these people, they look at a video game and they say, we want this to be the next big hit. I've talked about this before. Forgive me for my, rambling on about things you've already heard. But they want this game to be the next big thing. They don't want this to be a successful game. They don't want this to be a game that makes net money. They don't want this to be a game that is really awesome and it will be played 10 years from now. They want a game that is a #1 bestseller. And I'm not actually being facetious about this. And this is not a matter of opinion. This is a matter of provable and have already been proved fact. This is something that they have openly said to stockholders and whatnot in meetings. This is actually what certain companies, Ubisoft, Square Enix, EA, are 3 I can name specifically that are in this boat, want out of their games. They want them to be the big game. That is a problem because, well, Shovel Knight. Now, if you don't know what Shovel Knight is, that doesn't matter. What Shovel Knight really is, as far as this discussion is a niche game. Now, I know a lot of people love Shovel Knight. I love Shovel Knight. But the point is, it was definitely aiming for a niche market. It was a game they could have made at a loss and still won. And here's why. This is how game development used to work and has worked in the past at least 3 times to my knowledge. 3 of the quote-unquote golden eras of gaming. You make a game that's niche, but you really put a lot of work and effort into it. You may even make it at a loss, or you may only just barely break even with it. But that's okay, because what you've done is you've made a great game that has now engendered a tremendous amount of consumer loyalty. And now, because everyone has done that, you have a lot more pulling power with the people who actually have the money to help you make your game in order to make a sequel, which will then sell very well. You also have the same situation happening where word of mouth. Word of mouth is the single best marketing thing that has ever existed, and that is still true, especially in this modern age of digital communication and fast media and all that fun stuff. So you get a game like Shovel Knight and everyone loves the hell out of it. When they make Shovel Knight 2, and by the way, they are making Shovel Knight 2, that game will sell like crazy. So they could have actually taken a loss on Shovel Knight, and they still would have won long term because Shovel Knight 2 will more than make up for any of those losses. This is basic business right here. Granted, I went to school for business way back in the day, and accounting and that kind of thing, but this is so basic that anyone with a functioning brain should be able to figure this out. But no, we want to make sure that everything is an absolute hit, and the only way to ensure that anything is an absolute hit is to get rid of anything that actually approaches the idea of a niche market. And this is why the indie thing has exploded so much, because what indie games have the availability to do is to make whatever. And this has all of the pluses and all of the minuses that you would expect from that. Any game that comes out in the indie market can be incredible, terrible, or anything in between. And it can apply to so many different niche markets. How many different games are there out there that are about zombie survivalist horror, even though that is a niche market? How many games are out there where you have to spend real time in order to build... There's a game that I can't remember the name of right now, but everything you do literally takes real game time to the point of hours and days. You want to build a fence, that's like 2 hours of time. Real time spent. And it's a fully PvP open kind of a game, and you go out and you get things, you build a community, you set up people to defend, that kind of a thing. I forget the name of the game, it's actually an interesting game. But that is a very niche market, which has been selling fairly well because that's how a niche market works. It appeals to certain people, and because it is specifically aimed to that niche, it doesn't have to spread itself so thin. That's one of the problems with trying to appeal to a wider market or wider markets, is the more different types of groups of people you appeal to, the less you will appeal to each of them individually. And so we may put this game out that is okay to several different markets, but it will never be better than okay to those people. You put out a game that's supposed to be designed for this market right here, and you really focus on that, then it's going to be, well, at least assuming you do a damn good job, it's going to be a much better game to those people. So that's what that's what the indie thing of the past few years has really done to gaming, has allowed niche markets to really start exploding. This is something that has happened before. The NES and the SNES and the PlayStation 1 eras all saw this happen previously, and we saw a similarity happen in the PC era. Before you think I'm forgetting about that. Now that being said, I'm glad that all three of the major console companies right now have decided to go ahead and start supporting indies. Personally, I like Nintendo's support of indie best of the three, but it's a very minor change. There's not really any difference between that. But the thing I have to say is that Microsoft's approach so far with the Xbone, and I do not wish to speak ill of the Xbone or Microsoft, is to fling money at the situation until it gets better. And while that will work, that is neither suboptimal nor will win over certain types of people, myself included. The PlayStation 4, by contrast, has really been trying to sell the new system solely on the weight of how incredibly high processing it is, which is actually kind of funny to me in more ways than one, because what they're basically selling you is a expensive yet not really that good computer at this point, which has a controller attached. And I don't. This is not a PC versus console thing. Don't bring that up. It doesn't matter. It never did. It never will. What I'm saying here is that's literally what their appeal is at this point. The PlayStation 4 is basically a miniature PC. And by the way, they already did that with the PS3, if you remember. Now, both the Xbone and the PlayStation 4 are basically living and breathing off of their ability to get games exclusive to their consoles and trying to have this whole war thing. And the very concept of a console war is so outdated that it boggles my mind. I tend to support Nintendo more, even despite their failures lately, based solely on the fact that at least they're not doing anything that makes me so face-palming, just makes me want to go, oh, God, you're idiots, as opposed to the other companies involved. And there's more than just the two that I just mentioned. That being said, of course, Nintendo is not perfect, and don't mistake me for being a Nintendo fanboy. They've been making lots of mistakes lately. I just hope that, of the three, all three of them actually wake up and say, oh, hey, maybe we should actually start doing things properly again, instead of constantly trying to destroy gaming in the sake of lining our own pocket. And that's another thing, by the way. I feel like commenting on this. I've talked about this before. Most people don't seem to understand why companies tend to be so stupid about this. It's because they're looking at the company as one entity, which is, of course, totally wrong. What you have to do is look at this organization. Let's look at this company. Let's look at this gaming development company. And let's look at the people who make the decisions about what games to play and about what development teams get what budget, right? Those people who make those decisions make their money, their living, based on sales figures and how well those games have an initial, there's a term for it, a release, basically, how well they sell when the game comes out. They don't care if the game is played in a month or two. They don't care if the game is a lasting contributor to art, to science, to literary advancement. They don't care if that game is a monumental success or something that people will be playing 10 or 20 years from now. They don't give a damn because their salary, their money is enhanced by that initial launch. That's what they care about. And honestly, the more you understand that simple fact, the more so many of the things that large game development companies do make sense, because the people actually making the decisions only give a damn about their paycheck. And so what we have is situations where they will do monumentally stupid things, outright lying, and god-awful, terrible marketing and overhyping just to get to that point where they make that dollar sign. The whole Ubisoft Watch Dogs thing, I just did a rumination about that. That game, at initial release, sold really well. Now it's a kind of a crap game. It's like a totally average game, like I said. You saw my rumination, or if you didn't, go watch it. And most people will not be playing that again. I will definitely never play that game again. I know most people I know who will not be picking up that game because of the fact of how I was talking about it. And I guarantee you that in 10 or 20 years, most people have never even heard of Watch Dogs. It will not have endured like so many of the great classical games have. The true greats from the NES era, from the SNES era, from the PlayStation 1 era, from the PlayStation 2 era, from the PC across the whole spectrum. There are GameCube games that have more lasting power than Watch Dogs ever will. But Watch Dogs sold. And that's the part they care about. And that is my thought on the gaming industry.
Now I'll show you to your quarters.
Hang on, Schmeidoff. Let me look. Yes, this is exactly it, Schmeidoff. Haven and Hearth. I've actually played this game a bit, and it's actually rather interesting of a game to play. It's really brutal. It is completely unforgiving, but that's a niche market. There are plenty of people playing it. More than enough to, you know what? I don't want to keep going. It's just. It's the same thing with MMOs. You know, I'm going to say one other thing. Same thing with MMOs. Too many MMOs keep trying to be the WoW killer. That's kind of tapered off a bit in the past. Oh, right. There we go. They kind of tapered off in the more recent years. But so many MMOs were trying to be the WoW killer, and it's that exact same premise that I was just talking about. The idea of being the winner. The idea of being the best MMO. The MMOs that have succeeded and endured are the MMOs that aimed for a niche market and held on to it and really pushed for it. Guild Wars 1, EVE Online, you know, EverQuest is still going. Asheron's Call is still going, for God's sakes. How many MMOs out there, while WoW was out, while WoW was dominating the art industry, said, we're going to aim for this little group of people. And they're still going. They're still going strong in most cases. I've actually read that already, Dios, believe it or not. What recent games come to mind that are for the deeper gamer in the FF niche market? I have not actually played Bravely Default, but from my understanding, Bravely Default falls into that. It is debatable as to whether or not the Mario and Luigi series falls into that, but I actually personally would think it would. And there are... there's another one. Hang on. There's one that just came out on Steam. Oh, I totally disagree with that, Shadow. But then again, I have a very not popular opinion of that particular game. What is that game called? Is this it? No. Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky? Is this it? Well, this is one of them. There's a game on Steam called Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky. There's another one that just came out pretty recently. It's like a modern FF-style RPG, older graphics. That's another thing, by the way, if I feel like commenting. Too many people are so dismissive of, you know, retro games, because all they are is crap games with old graphics. But the thing that most people forget, because they're stupid, is the fact that the reason so many games that come out that are considered high quality that have worse graphics is because worse graphics are easier to develop for and quicker and cheaper. And so when you come out with a game where you only have to spend a fraction of your budget and time on actually shoving all that into the graphics engine and polishing that, then you can spend the entirety of the rest of your time on making a good game. So many people miss that. I get so tired of the argument that people only like retro games because they look retro. No! We like them because they bothered to make a good game. And part of the reason they were able to do that with their limited budget is because they made a bad-looking game. God, people are stupid. So, someone asked me about the new 3DS. I've actually answered that several times, but the new 3DS is one of those things that is both a positive and a negative, which I guess also describes everything in the entire universe. One of the good thing about the new 3DS, it's got a lot of new stuff under the hood. It's basically a 3DS but better in every way, as far as the processing power, the memory, the battery life, all that fun stuff. All of that stuff. It's a lot better, so it's going to be able to function as a better 3DS. It also has the improved 3D thing, which I have not seen personally, and obviously won't in several months. But the point being, it'll be a lot more capable of being using the 3D, so that people don't have to stand. Because for those of you who don't know, yeah, I got my 3DS right here. You have to be pretty much like right here to have the 3D thing. The idea of the new one is you could be like anywhere within this range and still have the 3D effect. So that's cool. So yeah, the fact that they're coming out with a new 3DS, which is basically nothing but an under-the-hood improvement, I'm with that. I'm totally cool with that. My one and only worry, and this is the negative about the new 3DS, is the fact that it might actually have too much requirement for people to develop, specifically for the new hardware, which can handle, the new stuff, and that people will have to, therefore, upgrade in order to play those games. However, I don't really think that will actually happen. Personally, I can't really see that happening, but it is a worry and a concern. I won't lie about it. And not to really point this out, but the best game I've played in the last year is Shovel Knight. It's a side-scroller 8-bit game with some RPG elements. But the reason I call it the best game I've played in the last year is it is so high quality. So much effort was put into level design, sound, graphics, animation, controls, difficulty, variance, writing. It was very high quality in its production. How many Wii U's do I think Super Smash Bros. Will move? A lot. Yeah, go ahead, Permeus. The game I mentioned earlier was... I gotta find it again. Is this it? I think this is it. It's called The Legend of Heroes: Trails in the Sky. I actually own it. It was gifted to me. Yeah, this is the one. This is actually pretty cool looking. It's kind of isometric. I've only played it a dinky little amount. I think I have another one of these games in my wish list I was going to eyeball. I'm trying to remember what it was. Other than that and that, obviously. Maybe I don't. Maybe there's something else. Anyways. So what was Shadow's question? Hang on. How many game developers do things right? Bethesda. Blizzard. I don't care what you say. Blizzard. Nintendo when they're actually making a game. And that's it. All three of these companies I can right out say, these companies do things right. There are also individual developers I could say do things right. There are quite a few, I just don't know their names off the top of my head. 3D Project Red, or however you pronounce that, they do things right. Hang on, there's another one. I can look up the name of this company right here. I think. Maybe. Yeah, here it is. Yacht Club Games. Do things right. Hang on, there's another one. I gotta look it up real quick. Because there's a couple other ones, actually. There's also Level 9. Level 9 does things right. and Matrix Software does things right. I can give you several more examples, Shadow, if I really thought about it. All of those companies, I could definitively say, do things correctly. I could say that without question or hesitation. How can video games do things right? I can answer that very easily, Shadow. I can tell you what to do wrong, and that's a good starting point. In other words, don't get hung up over graphics. I'm sorry, we don't care anymore. As a species, we do not care anymore. We haven't cared for almost a decade. We do not care about how awesome games look anymore. We like things to look cool, but that is not a selling point. Don't waste time and budget and people on graphics. Point 2. Do not try to fling money at a marketing campaign instead of making your game good. Point 3. Do not try and make your game... this one's a little harder to define, but do not do what I like to call the Michael Bay effect. Now, I know what you're thinking. Loud explosions, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not actually what I mean. The Michael Bay effect is to take something and to spread it out as much as you can so it appeals to as wide of an audience as possible. Very broad humor, so it doesn't hit any specific type of humor. Very broad sense of action, very broad sense of dramatic, It tries to do its own... It doesn't really focus in on anything. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. It tries to be as spread out as possible so it appeals to as many different groups as possible. Don't do that! It doesn't work! And I agree with what Omni said. Aesthetics over graphics. I'm just going to be blunt. I still think, and this is genuine, I still think Legend of Zelda Link to the Past looks good. To this day. I mean that sincerely. I really do. Go pull up, you know what, here, I'm going to link something right here. I'm going to pull them right now. I'm going to make my point. Now, you may disagree with me, and that's fine. That actually makes my point, because the point is it is aesthetics, which is independent to the individual. But I, personally, think this, which I'm linking in chat right now, still looks good. That is aesthetic versus graphical quality. Don't do any of these things. I agree, Shadow. I think FF6 looks awesome. I think FF6 is still a fabulous, gorgeous game. I still love playing Oblivion. You want something that's not 8-bit or 16-bit? Boom. Oblivion. I still think Oblivion looks absolutely phenomenally gorgeous. I really do. I still think that, there's a lot of games. There's a lot. I'm not going to go down the list. I don't want to do the list. I think Transistor looks good. I'll agree with that. Transistor looks great. I liked how Bastion looked, too, actually, while we're on the subject. Aesthetics over graphics. Definitely with it. Yeah, Mass Effect 3's live-action trailer. So these are things you don't do, Shadow, okay? I have people heard say that looks bad, Samurai. I have actually heard that. Let me give you another example. See you around, G-Man. Oh, I agree. City of Heroes looked, in my opinion, better than Champions, even though it was graphically worse. By far. Wind Waker. It's another good example. I still think Wind Waker looks good. Now, in fairness, I actually like the Wind Waker HD, but I like it because they didn't change the aesthetic. That's how you do a graphics change. You don't change the aesthetic, you just polish it. So these are things you don't do, Shadow. Things you do. Figure out what you want to appeal to. Figure out your market. Figure out your target audience. Now, I keep talking about niche markets. A niche market is not necessarily only people like one group and that's it. There are plenty of examples of people liking, I'm a good example of a broad niche market, believe it or not, because I actually like several different niches as far as my what I am audience-wise. So, but there are plenty of people who are like me in that respect. So figure out what you want to appeal to. We want this game to be interesting to people who have a love of politics and anime. That kind of a princessy, anime girly thing. And I know that you're probably going to make fun of me, Shadow, for using this example, but it's true. That is two niche markets combined, and you know what? I applaud them for that. Let's make a game that appeals to people who love an in-depth political story and like turn-based tactical combat. Final Fantasy Tactics. Let's make a game that really appeals to people who want first-person shooters and an in-depth, wonderfully designed platformer that happens to be very atmospheric. Metroid Prime. It is not, you don't have to appeal to just one niche when you're doing that. You figure out what you want to appeal to. You figure out what kind of game you want to make, and you make it. Saints Row 4. Saints Row 4 is a great example of. I wouldn't say Saints Row 4 is broad. In all honesty, I really wouldn't. I would say Saints Row 4 very specifically aimed at people who were fans of that type of game, fans of the Saints Row series, and loved just the sort of over-the-top excessiveness kind of a thing, and said "whew" and ran with it. Which brings me to my next point. This is my next point. This is where I'm leading with this, Shadow. Next thing you want to do if you want to make a good game and make it look well, or make it done well, don't be afraid to really put your heart into it. I know that sounds generic. I know that sounds generalized. It's true. I'm sorry. But it is always obvious to anyone paying attention when the people who make a work, book, movie, television, art, music, video game, cared about what they made. If they put forth their heart, their effort, their caring, their consideration, they wanted to make something good, it shows. And 9 times out of 10, it succeeds. It will almost, however, this is important. 3 times out of 10, you will succeed when it goes out. However, 9 times out of 10, when it, over time, people will love it. And I've got a great example for you right now, and it's called Earthbound. Earthbound did not sell well. I'll explain why later. Earthbound did not sell well at all. But the people who made Earthbound shoved a lot of love into that game, and that is one of the more well-lauded SNES games, and arguably one of the best JRPGs of all time. And a lot of people think that now, because Earthbound lived and loved and worked on that long-term perspective rather than just trying to make a buck now. Awesome, Echolet. I hope you enjoy it, because it's an amazing game. It's got some flaws. Yeah, Shadow. It's actually, we want Earthbound 3 to come out properly localized. That's what we want, because Earthbound 2 already exists. And Earthbound 3 would be awesome, but people have been making a Mother 4 in Earthbound 3 for some time. I've been following it idly, and those people are have the blessing of the actual developers of eToy and whatnot. And there's some rumors they have some help, but that's rumors. We don't know about that. Yeah. You want an example that's not video game? I got one for you. How many people remember Stop or My Mom Will Shoot? How many people remember that? It's a movie. I'm going to just fast forward here. The reason I mention this is Stop or My Mom Would Shoot outshone another movie that came out at the time, and I'm suddenly forgetting if I'm looking around. Hang on. I got to make sure I'm thinking of the right movie, because I want to make my example specific. Yes, I did, Shiryu. I mean, I own it. It's actually right over there. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to bash Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. I'm just trying to make a point. Okay, 1992, February. That's what I need. Give me a second, guys. Here we go. Here we go. I can't find a specific movie. Because I'm an idiot, apparently. There's a specific movie. I can't think of it. It's not the one I was thinking of. There's a movie that went live alongside Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. It sold, when it came out, worse than Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Yeah, I'm trying to find it. God, it should be like right here. Maybe this isn't a complete list, because this is just showing... Yeah, I actually think this isn't a complete list. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The point I was trying to make is that... Blade Runner is actually a really good example. So is The Princess Bride. That's a much easier example. Princess Bride bombed when it came out. How many people do you know who love Princess Bride? I know one person who considers Princess Bride their favorite movie of all time. Two people, actually, now that I think on it. How many people, there's so many examples in movies and books and history and art and music where something went live and it accomplished what it came to do. It may have sold, it may have flopped, and then later on people got to actually appreciate it because that's what happens over time. Was it Army of Darkness? It might have been Army of Darkness. Hang on. Because that would be very appropriate. Hang on. No, it wasn't Army. Well, okay, this is an incomplete list. I already established that. Whatever. Point being, how many times has that happened? In books, in movies, in video games. Something goes live and it's like, and then it comes out later, and then people start examining it more and more and more, and people start loving it more and more and more, and it becomes this wonderful, successful thing. Here's another one. Firefly. Let's go to television. Firefly did not sell well when it came out. And you may say, well, then they made Serenity. And yeah, they did. And Serenity did not sell well. Serenity kind of had a really lackluster box office release. How many people love Firefly to this day? How many people still would love to see a continuation of Firefly? That is true, Dios, but that still makes my point. That still perfectly makes my point. Here's the problem. I'll go and explain it to you guys. When something, anything, book, movie, music, game, doesn't matter. When something goes live, there are a dozen factors that go into how well it will sell initially. And most of those have nothing to do with the quality of the work itself. Has to do with marketing. Has to do with the cultural impact at the time. Has to do what's happening geopolitically at the time. Has to do with the mindsets, the societal expectations of the time. I could keep going down the list. There are so many things that happen when something goes live that have nothing to do with the work itself that determine how well it sells when it comes out. And the reason so many of these things, I've been giving so many examples of things that have become more popular over time, it's because over time, more people become exposed to it. And some things that were perceived as good go downhill because more people are exposed to it and more people actually watch after it and whatnot. And sometimes we have the reverse effect where things, come out and people watch it and see it and play it and they're like, oh, hey, this is up. And then it goes uphill because more people play it. Earthbound is probably my favorite example out of all time because Earthbound spread by word of mouth. Some people bought Earthbound on the SNES. I bought Earthbound on the SNES. I still have it. I still have the freaking manual, the strategy guide, and it's awesome. That was the best $90 I've ever spent in my life. Yes, it was $90. But people like me spread the word about Earthbound, and so more people started to go ahead and give it a shot, which meant they would spread the word, which meant more people would give it a shot. That's how word of mouth works. And that's why that's why so many things do not sell initially and then have the possibility of becoming a classic later on. So yeah, you may go out there and, make a game. If you're out there and you're actually trying to make a game, Shadow, and you make that great game, my biggest and most important piece of advice to you is to really try and care about your game because it may not sell well, even if it is a great game. But I guarantee you, if it is a great game, over time people will discover it. It is almost inevitable in the quote-unquote information age that we exist. And if the reality of people enjoying and loving your work is not enough for you, you're in the wrong business. And no, actually, I have played Action 52. Now that I think about it, Bayonetta is actually another good example of that, Ecolette. Bayonetta is a game that I knew almost nothing about until it was basically thrown in my direction. I was like, "What's this?" Oh, okay, well, let's try this out. And I played it at a friend's house, and I actually really liked it. And now I'm genuinely excited about Bayonetta 2. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to buy it on the Wii U. Hell yeah. And funnily enough, this is another point in Nintendo's favor. Nintendo looked at those developers because Bayonetta 1 did not sell that well and said, "We think you made a good game. You want to make a sequel?" And they said, "Yeah!" And so they kind of worked together. I've talked about this before. This is how exclusives should work. Don't give a person a chunk of money and say, "Only make a game for my system." Go to a person and say, "We want to help you make a game for our system." And work with them and help them. There's a reason Bayonetta 2 is a Wii U exclusive. It's because Nintendo reached out to them and said, "Let's go." And they said yes. No, I haven't, Tull. I actually do need to get some food soon and hit the grocery store and then get back to streaming. And yeah, apparently I'm the reason people play KOTOR. I actually get messages semi-regularly saying, "You are the reason I have played game A or B, and thank you for that." I love that. I love sharing. I love being part of this whole, spreading of the information and trying to get out there more games that people can play. Play more games. Love these games. Games are awesome. Let's discuss, That's been my motto since forever, and there's a reason for that. Echo, I know that Rare has nothing to do with the next one, if that's what you mean. If I'm thinking of the right company, which I believe I am. I'll look it up real quick. I could be wrong. I could be thinking of the wrong company, but I'm pretty sure Rare is doing nothing. And I'm right. Screw Rare. Seriously, screw Rare. They had their chance. And then they did bad stuff, and then they did worse stuff. Idiots. Thank you, Shadow. You know what? That's awesome. I hope you enjoy them. I hope you enjoy them. I hope people enjoy more games. Zeiss is playing Chrono Trigger because of me. Wrath is playing Skyrim because of me, Apparently Shuryu is why I played... I'm the reason he's playing Dragon Age. Yeah, exactly, South Sun. I'm sorry, Baronessa. Yeah, retro... Okay, now, retro... Retro's awesome. Retro's awesome, and I hope Retro continues to be awesome, because they have done nothing but awesome stuff ever since they first picked up their first game, which was Metroid Prime. Also known as one of the best games of all time. So, yeah! Princess Garnet. I actually like Garnet. I like a lot of people in FF9. I really like a lot of characters in FF9. Look at this. I'm hearing so many guys playing this game. You have no idea how much this is making me smile. This is awesome. All these games. Now, hopefully you like these games that you're playing because of me. Because otherwise I'm going to feel really bad. I always feel bad. Yeah, I played this game because of you, and it sucks! Oh. I mean, that's inevitable, because not everyone likes the same things, right? That's duh. But, I do like it when people have shared joy as a result thereof, because duh. Brofist to everyone. Brofists. Brofist. What went wrong with Metroid Other M? Two big things. And I mean this sincerely. I can describe all the problems with Other M in two things. Number one, they didn't actually have the development time needed to do what they wanted to do, so they decided to cut corners, mostly in terms of gameplay. And yeah, that was a bad idea. And point two, taking several decades of character development on one of the best female protagonists in history, in my opinion, and flinging it out the window in favor of this god-awful subplot of her being a daddy issue, stereotypical, no characterization, no depth of personality idiot. That's what went wrong with Other M. So the gameplay suffered, and the story was garbage because of the character assassination. Paper Mario. I absolutely love Paper Mario. I cannot put into words enough how much I love the Paper Mario series and the Mario RPG series. I always have, ever since Super Mario RPG, which was made by the old team of Square. Huh, really sure you found me with the Square and with my first Lamentation video? I've only done 2 Lamentations ever. Wow. That's actually really funny. I don't blame you, Southson. I had trouble with the gameplay of 358 over 2. Loved the story though. God. I don't want to say anything else. Shadow's here, but wow, you know. One of the funny things that would happen back when I used to stream MMOs more often, this is over a year ago now, is people would immediately want to try the MMOs I'd played because they looked fun, and I would talk about them and stuff. And my friend Pax made this comment of, so when are you getting like a sponsorship deal to try and play these games? I mean, for God's sakes. I know, Shadow. We don't talk about the 3DS Paper Mario. Hey, Vyson. That's true, Samurai, and I do always, I espouse myself towards the concept of positivity. That's always been my thing since forever, since I was a kid. I do too, Mraid. Anyone who didn't like Samus's portrayal was Japanophobic. Ah! Yeah, no. Oh my god. No. 101 viewers. I'm just talking about gaming here. I'm just talking about gaming. Yeah, Maxim, I have 77 mods right now. And Pauly, I did, sort of. I did the marathon run of FF13. So, no, Sonic. I did. I never managed to succeed at the best MMO ever. What happened to the 3DS Paper Mario, I can explain very simply, Acolyte. Again, take a series which has always based itself on very strong characterization and a very strong plot and excellent writing, okay? Get rid of the writing, remove the plot, and have no characterization. And this is what went wrong with 3D Paper Mario. Also, they made it a Mario game with turn-based combat. No RPG elements. Just a Mario game with turn-based combat. That might have worked if they had these other 3 points in. 150, God, Baronessa. I don't even have that many mods. Although I'm probably going to up that to 78 soon because I need to get that mod that I probably have saved. I guess that's true, Samurai. Wants to see me play games when I could chat forever. What do we got here? Oh yeah, Respectful Lydia. I need to get the Respectful Lydia and the Wearable Lanterns. I need to get both of those mods. So I'm going to be at 79 mods soon. I don't understand what you're asking, Ecolette. Nintendo hasn't switched devs at all on Metroid. They are. I mean, see, okay. Here's the thing about Retro, and this is again kind of a comment on that whole exclusives thing that I was talking about earlier. Retro, the reason Metroid Prime was a proper exclusive was because Retro and Nintendo actually both worked together. Both of the teams worked together in order to make Metroid Prime, as opposed to just handing the franchise over to someone like, oh, I don't know, Team Ninja, and telling them to make a game. So, I joined the Thalmor. I can't! They won't let me! Ogre 64. Yeah, I don't really care for Ogre 64. Although, personally, I really like Ogre Battle, the original one on the SNES. I really wish we had another Ogre game like that. Although, I do have Tactics Ogre and the PSP one, which is awesome, and I highly recommend it to anybody who likes that. That's true, South Sun. Fire Emblem Awakening was the actual Paper Mario 4. That was awesome. Pre-ordering. Oh, we're not even going to talk about pre-ordering. Hello, Kiro. pre-ordering is a complicated topic because pre-ordering is all about. Okay. From the perspective of the viewers, pre-ordering is all about, hey, let's go ahead and make sure that we get this game when it comes out to make sure we get a copy. From the developer's side, it's, hey, let's get this money in place now so we can justify to our bosses who are assholes that we actually need the budget necessary to properly finish the game. And then there's the assholes perspective of thing, which is, hey, we need that money right now because money. That's the problem with pre-ordering right there. For reference, I do actually have one game on pre-order right now, and it's all your guys' fault. Thanks, guys. But yeah, it is all about day one sales from the developer, or rather from the publisher perspective. And I've already talked about the day one sales problem. I'm not going to repeat myself there. What is my favorite ice cream flavor? White chocolate cake batter. It has bits of white chocolate in it, and it's cake batter flavored. It's a little bit of butter, too. It's really good. Now, the other problem with pre-ordering is pre-ordering bonuses. Do you remember when pre-ordering bonuses didn't exist? I do. It's actually not really even that long ago. Yeah, Dragon Age Inquisition is the game I have pre-ordered. I've already pre-ordered. I've already paid for it. It is paid and done. As soon as they let me download it, I will, and as soon as it goes live, the minute Dragon Age Inquisition goes live, I will be playing it on the stream. Thanks, guys. But yeah, pre-order bonuses didn't used to exist. And instead, what you would have is, in some cases, only half the time really, collector's editions. Forgive me for waxing nostalgic, but I liked the times when collector's edition got you cool stuff. Now, here's the catch. The definition of cool stuff is very variable, and it's going to depend on the individual. No, Ecolette, although I will when it's all out. The definition of cool stuff is variable, but one of the things I liked most about the Oblivion collector's edition, which is one of my favorite ones, is it came with an actual map, cloth map of Cyrodiil, and it came with a little booklet, which was the Imperial Guide to Cyrodiil, or the Official Guide to Cyrodiil, whatever. And it was actually in character. The whole book was written as though it was actually being written by the character in the game, as though this was actually the book you would get in-game. And that was cool, and I liked that. And then I look at, was it Watch Dogs or Assassin's Creed 4? One of the more recent Ubisoft games had so many pre-order bonuses, different pre-order bonuses, that it was actually ludicrously stupid. It was just, wow. But there have been good collector's editions even in the modern era. Don't mistake me. Still, some games do some proper collector's editions in the modern era. I don't want to name the first example that comes to mind because people will bash me for it, and frankly, I get tired of being bashed for my opinions on Blizzard. Yeah, I'm talking about Blizzard games. I think they do good collector's edition stuff because it's usually in-game stuff, and it's usually cosmetic, and it usually looks cool. Yes, with it. I also like the collector's edition of StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty they came out with that had a giant freaking, I suddenly can't think of his name, Tycho. Giant Tycho statue. It's like this big. Yeah, that was cool. With that, totally. Awesome. Coming out with 15 different things and the spread. Has anyone seen the Watch Dogs spreadsheet of all the different pre-orders and all the different combinations of what you get from this and that? And, you know, you got to do this, and then you got to do this over here, and in order to get this item and this item. And so many of them are mutually exclusive from each other. That's another thing. I don't get the mutually exclusive thing. That's another good one. Atlas does another good collector's edition things. Yeah, sure. Hang on. Let me find it, Ecolette. Probably won't even take me. There it is. I found it immediately. Here you go, Ecolette. Bamf. So, Watch Dogs. This is so stupid. These are all the pre-orders. There's all the standard edition, special edition, vigilante edition, Uplay exclusive edition, limited edition, DeadSec edition, digital deluxe edition, Uplay deluxe edition, gold edition, season pass edition. Notice how many things some has but the others don't. Look at this. Look at this. This is so stupid. And now, wow. I can't believe this crap. Oh my god. Any new console? Oh, gotcha, Basharano. I do videos based on what you guys request. I don't really have a lot of hi Rosulia. I don't have a lot of choice. You guys decide what I do ruminations on. Spoiler alert: the next 2, 3, 4 games I'm going to be doing are older stuff or PC. So yeah, this this is so ridiculous. This freaking thing. And yeah, I like the big old days of you. Yeah, Shadow of the Colossus. That's another. That was another good example of a really good collector's edition. I mean, because that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. I'm not trying to say that older times are new. I'm just saying I like the fact that some companies do it right with collector's editions, and then some companies do what Ubisoft did, and that's wrong. Any thoughts on the new FF game? Are you talking about Versus/15, or are you talking about the FF5 Go Kill Monster Hunter thing? Did you not watch my video, Shadow? I didn't hate it. I just it was. Oh, and then there's Typo. I forgot about Typo. Is Typo coming out on a PS3? Because if it's not, I'm not buying a PS4 for that game. Never, Razulia. Never. Fire Emblem game or a Tales game. I need to buy them, so son. So, PC have the better game sense. You talk. No, Nerozaz. That's stupid. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. There's no PC versus console here. That's a dumb dichotomy. That is a false dichotomy, for that matter. Yeah, BioWare used to do some decent Square collector's editions too. No, I don't want a PS4. I really don't. What are my thoughts on Casey Hudson living? Don't care. He's an idiot. He's gone. Moving on. But yeah, I haven't really gone into the Fire Emblem games, so I couldn't really do a rumination on them anyways. No stream. Oh, God, I've already got such a huge schedule built up for streams. I still got to finish Skyrim, which is going to take me weeks at best, especially with all the DLCs to push through. PC versus mobile. That I'll agree is a dichotomy. Or more accurately, gaming versus mobile. Nero says, I don't understand your point. What am I talking about that's primarily PC? Sonic, I haven't started it yet, basically. I mean, I picked it up and played it for 2 hours, then I put it down, but I haven't actually played it for real yet, nor will I until it's time to do the rumination for it. I don't know, Shadow. If it's been requested, yeah, maybe. Dark Castle. Don't think I have Echo. Man, I'm actually falling behind on questions. Why would I want an X-Bone? There is literally no reason for me to pick up an X-Bone. There might be a reason for me to want a PS4 someday, in a decade or two, when I get it on sale for half price. But I have no reason to want an X-Bone right now. Okay, so, right, back to this thing. Oh, God. No, I have never done the DLCs, Wrath, so this is the first term. Thoughts on Donkey Kong 64? I didn't like it. I know a lot of people do. It is pretty insane to 100%. And I'm glad you liked it, Shadow, Proxy. I'm really happy about that. I'm always nervous about the then and nows because it was kind of a... yeah, it was kind of a thing. Favorite console I own? Does the SNES count? No, okay. Favorite modern console? Well, that's stupid because I only own a Wii U. See, I've got a Wii U, I've got a Wii, I've got a GameCube. Kind of redundant. A SNES, N64, NES, DS, 3DS, PSP, PS3, and PS2. Of these 11, I'm really torn because I'm gonna go ahead and say my favorite is all of them, and totally bypass your question. Am I excited for Dragon Age Inquisition? I don't know if excited is the word I want to use for that. I am curious about Dragon Age Inquisition. Do I have a Virtual Boy? Why in God's name would I have a Virtual Boy?
You're going to be sharing space.
Oh my God. Ugh.
You'll meet shortly.
Because my eyes aren't damaged enough as is.
This bed and desk are yours. Please try and be considerate of others. Now, let's go back to the Hall of the Elements, where most of the members gather for lectures and study sessions.
At the frozen hearth the night before.
What's AVGN?
I thought I had mastered conjuring a bound sword. I didn't know Finis was going to ask me to impale something with
point of conjuring a magical sword that dissipates as soon as it impales something?
Finish.
Initially, you'll be learning from Tolkien.